I've just finished the Tour Aotearoa, which is a 3,000 km cycle from the top to the bottom of New Zealand, Cape Reinga to Bluff, and I'm going to go through the kit that I took and talk about it whilst it's fresh in my memory and I have it all laid out in front of me. So here is everything laid out. It hasn't been fully unpacked, but this gives you a general idea. In terms of the bags that I'll talk through and the bike, I had 2 Ortlieb rear panniers, a food bag, a handlebar bag, a top tube bag, a saddle bag, and a camelback rucksack. So I'll just go through all of those individually now. Okay, so this is the Ortlieb Classic Waterproof Pannier. I had 2 of these, each of which had a 20-litre capacity. I didn't even take dry bags for this bag, which are kind of waterproof liners. From my experience in the heavy rain that I did witness throughout New Zealand, all my kit remained really dry, so I didn't have any issues with that. So I really rate Ortlieb as a brand. It has a good reputation for a good reason. It hooks onto the rack with these 3 contact points. You can adjust these accordingly depending on the dimensions of your rack. It's got a roll top closure mechanism, which means that if it's not super full, you can properly roll it tight and get it really waterproof. It's closed with this clip here, and then there's also a kind of shoulder strap, so you can basically pick this up when you're walking around when it's not attached to your bike, which is helpful. These also are it can be pulled down here to keep the strap from flailing around in the wind when it's on the bike. And I got these in bright yellow, so thank you, Ferg, my brother, if you're watching this. These are great. Okay, so all of these bits and bobs are what I had in one of my panniers. So one pannier had basically all of my camp equipment, so stuff that I needed when I pitched my tent every evening, and then the other one had my clothes and my electrical equipment. So starting with the first pannier, an ABUS cable lock. I didn't actually use this because I had this sort of more light duty cable lock with the number combination on there. I used this in conjunction with my D-lock to keep my bike secure when I was away from my bike for a long period of time. I kept passports and my journal in another Ortlieb bag. This was just for peace of mind, really. I didn't want things to get damaged or wet in a worst case scenario. Sleeping bag, I didn't get cold at all on this trip actually, so I did the TA from January to February. You can see here that comfort ranges was for 9 degrees, limit at 5, and extreme -9. I definitely wouldn't want to camp in really cold temperatures, but I was very comfortable, and some nights I didn't even use my sleeping bag. I just used my sleeping bag liner, which is this wrap one here. Toilet roll, didn't use this. I think a lot of people think that New Zealand's quite a wild place, but on the Tour Aotearoa route, with the exception of some of the mountain biking trails like the Timber Trail, which I didn't do, you can find toilets relatively easy, and there's going to be a stop sort of every sort of 60k max, so that was fine. Trusty trowel if I was caught off guard. Insect repellent, again there were some pretty nasty nights sometimes, especially on the South Island in the dock campsites where you're kind of more close to nature, so definitely bring that with you. This was just as a safety thing, a thermal bag in case I got really caught off guard and I was kind of really cold, but fortunately didn't need to use that. I think these aren't very breathable at all. It's you know, to use this in an emergency. Roll mat, mountain equipment. This one you just inflate, just gives you a little bit of insulation from the elements, and yeah, it's not as bulky as a sort of traditional foam one. First aid kit, fortunately didn't use this, but you know, it's good to have. Incense, apparently these keep away the sandflies, but I mean, yeah, that's more of a luxury, I suppose, if you've got insect repellent and sort of keep your skin covered. Head net, I did use this a few times actually, near Lake Rotorua, when the sandflies got really bad. I think that the bad times are when setting up your camp or taking down your tent, when you're sort of a bit more still and they just swarm you. Spare gear cables, inner cables for brakes and shifters. Spare bungee cord as well. I'll show you the bike when it's all done up, but basically this lashed my tent to my rack. I did break one of these, but it was good to have a spare. Didn't use cards, but if you've got friends that like playing cards, fair enough. And finally the TA guidebook, definitely recommend this in case your Garmin breaks and you have no means of navigation. So all of this stuff was the clothes that I kept in my other pannier. So just quickly whizzing through. So waterproof jacket, a light fleece. I didn't actually use my microlight down jacket from Rab. I actually lost that, which was a bit peak. But again, I wasn't cold doing the TA in January and February, even when I got up to, you know, 1100 meters when I did the Crown range. 2 pairs of cycling bib shorts. I think it's good to take 2 pairs just for hygiene reasons. You know, you can't always wash all your gear every day, and it's important to keep your ass clean. Base layer, this was really good. I actually use this more, not for warmth, but actually just to protect my skin from the UV. The UV in the summer in New Zealand is actually high, very high or extreme. So factor 50 sun cream is definitely important. Another very important item of clothing, the trusty high-vis jacket. Bought this in Tyres after 90 Mile Beach. A lot of people talk about drivers not paying that much attention on the roads. I mean, to be fair, I did see a lot of people texting whilst driving, but I won't get into that, probably another video. But yeah, high-vis jacket just to stay visible. I just took the one cycling jersey. I think cycling jerseys are good because you've got the pockets on the back and it's a full zip. But again, if you just want to take other synthetic t-shirts, that's absolutely fine. Woolen hat to keep your head warm, especially when you're camping at night. I didn't actually use this cycling gilet, so this was surplus to requirement. Took 2 buffs. These are great. You can configure these in different ways. So one way is where you, for example, can wear it as like a neck scarf kind of thing, or you could turn it into a bandana and protect the back of your neck and keep. And then it kind of soaks up the sweat as well from your hair under your helmet. Socks. Arm warmers. Didn't actually. I might have used these once. Not that important, I'd say. Mitts, definitely important. Protect your hands from the sun. Also stop your hands from getting super grubby, because otherwise you're gripping your sweaty handlebars for like hours on end. Took a couple of pairs of boxers. Hat, waterproof trousers, definitely crack these out. When it rains in New Zealand, it really does pour, especially in the north where it's kind of tropical. So take some of those. Gloves, I didn't actually use these, but again, if you want to feel the cold, consider taking gloves. And then other things, so these are kind of more for casual wear at the end of the day. Sometimes I did wear these, so 3 pairs of three t-shirts, some togs, some shorts, swimming shorts. I actually use these quite a lot because you know, stopping at nice places like Whanganui where the beaches are super golden. Well, not super golden, like volcanic sand, really nice surf. Also in rivers, in these dock campsites, which are very idyllic. So take some swimming shorts with you, and then just some other shorts to wear. The shorts can actually serve as an alternative to cycling shorts, but not all the time. I think it's good to have a chamois. And then finally, this was actually my other pannier, but I forgot to mention it, a tracking towel by Trespass. These are really good because they just dry super quickly, and when you're camping and staying in these holiday parks, they don't have towels, so it's good to have one of these for yourself, makes you a bit more self-sufficient. And then finally, shoes. So I ran SPDs with clips on one side and flats on the other. These shoes are absolutely knackered now. I had to gorilla tape them to stop the toe caps from just disintegrating. I did quite a lot of hike and bike up some of the steeper stuff because I kind of didn't have the gearing. But I had these, and I also had some running trainers, but other people you know, took sandals which can easily be lashed to your bike. So here's the tent. I took the Berghaus Peak 3.1, which is a one-man tent. It's got quite a spacious height. It's not like a tunnel tent where you've got less space to move around inside. I think it's helpful, especially when the weather's bad, if you can sort of at least sit up a bit and then sort of move around to pack up your gear before leaving the tent and entering the elements. So that's the tent. I put it between my two panniers on my rack, which was a good setup, and secured it with some bungee cord. For those that have a bit more storage capability on their bike, some would say that you should take a two-man tent if you're going by yourself, or a three-man tent if you're going with someone else, because it just gives you that ability to store some of your gear inside. There is quite a large vestibule in this tent, so you can leave stuff between the inner and the outer, but you know, it all depends on your personal situation. Here's the Apogura bar bag. Absolutely fine during the trip, very waterproof, no problems at all. It has this bit of elasticated cord which I lashed a tyre to. This was a spare tyre that I had for my 38mm tyres. I'll talk about my bike in a bit more detail later on to talk about setup. But anyway, I lashed a tyre on there, which was fine. It did fall off once, but that's probably because I just didn't lash it properly. I took some chamois cream. I didn't actually use this, and this is pretty bulky, so again, it's all about personal preference. I didn't use this, so you could get away with it, but some people do swear by chamois cream. Kept some clothes in there. I've got a rogue pair of socks here which are very damp and mouldy. That's actually disgusting. And then, yeah, finally the canister. I took two of these 230-gram canisters, and I used about 1.5 for myself, and that's when I used it most days. Some of the holiday parks have their own sort of kitchens and cooking facilities, which means that you can use those hobs rather than your gas canisters, but it is good to have this for self-sufficiency reasons. Alright, so here's a few more things. So firstly, here is my food bag, just a bag dedicated for food. Sometimes I did keep my battery in there, which I'll get to later, but this attached to the frame and sort of sat just above the bottle cages, so absolutely no dramas with that. It's got these fairly high quality zips on both sides, and I kept snacks for during the day on one side and evenings, meals and breakfast stuff on the other, which was great. In terms of what I used to have a lot of, the Haraway's porridge sachets were good. All you need to do is add boiling water and maybe cook it for a bit, give it a stir, and you basically got porridge. And then for evening meals I used to have a lot of Uncle Ben's rice, which the other riders that I met definitely had as well, so they were kind of my staples. Here is the stove and the saucepan, so it's an MSR. Got a couple of lighters. This is like a wind protector, so if like there's quite a strong wind, you can like fold this out and then it protects from the wind. I've got some a small bottle of cooking oil, and then also soap. I just kept it in here for some reason, but it seemed to work. You can get these sort of flight ready toiletry plastic bottles, which I used, and I took this from one of the hotels that I stayed at. Here's the stove itself.
it folds out like that, so it's pretty stable when it's on the ground.
Plastic spork and spoon, maybe get titanium rather than plastic because that is broken. Sponge for washing stuff, that's also a sponge within an enclosed plastic bit for my biking chain, and that is where I kept most of it, and it all slotted in here, which was quite an efficient use of space. Moving on to electronics now. So kept most of these in a blue dry bag just for extra protection, which went in one of my panniers. Starting from the top left here, so rear light, head torch. This was very useful. I probably use these most days. It's just really helpful to have a hands-free torch when you're camping. GoPro Hero Session, didn't use this that much, but again very compact and good for content. The Bontrager 700 lumen torch. This went on to my handlebars, and again I needed to use this on the TA for going through various railway tunnels along the route, and also for night riding. Various cables for charging the different devices. I think if you do get a New Zealand plug, make sure it's got multiple USB ports on it, or the USB ports that you need, so you can charge multiple devices at once. Garmin Edge 810, this is on its last legs, but it just about got through it. The on button's actually completely broken, so I need to like take the red tape off and then actually press the little metal thing, because the button's broken. But anyway, I downloaded all of the GPX files. I can leave the link to those files down in the comment section. And then finally the Anker power bank. This was good. Took a long time to charge, but when it was fully charged, it did give 4 to 6 full charges of my phone, which you definitely need. You don't want to run out of phone charge when you say relying on it for navigation or trying to arrange accommodation in the evening. Okay, so here were the bags that I kept my bike tools in. So starting with this, so this was a top tube bag that was secured at the head tube, which contained these items. So camping penknife, really helpful, sharp knife, bottle opener, tin opener, corkscrew, saw. I think I used almost all the functionalities on this, so definitely take a penknife. Electrical tape, just for stuff that you're trying to bodge on the side of the road. For example, I broke a few spokes, and in order to secure the spoke, I just wrapped it around the nipple and secured it with this tape. So that might be helpful for you. Some special spanners, I guess, or pliers to help switch out a chain link, but I didn't have to do that. Just a screwdriver, cable cutters in case I snapped a gear cable. I mean, ideally I wouldn't want to do this on the side of the road, but I just thought in case I had to, then I could cut the new cable to size. Ferro rod. Again, I haven't actually talked about this, but New Zealand is quite strict on having fires. There was only one dot campsite where people were actually allowed to have fires. I think a lot of it depends on the weather conditions, especially in the summer. There are outright bans, or you need permission. Rubber solution and patches for changing, for patching of inner tubes. Pedal spanner and spoke key, and a whistle in case I needed to attract people's attention. But fortunately I didn't need to use many of these tools. Moving to the saddle bag, chain tool, hexagonal wrench thing. I needed to use that to adjust my mudguards, for instance. A set of Allen keys. I think it's good to have these individually rather than in a multi-tool because it gives you more control and it's less clunky. Couple of inner tubes. I didn't actually get a flat on the whole TA trip. I used the Schwalbe Marathon Pro Tyres 38mm. A quick link in case I snap my chain, and a tyre lever. I don't know where the other one's gone. Yeah, some of these Allen keys have rusted slightly. So I'd suggest maybe making sure that your saddlebag is waterproof, or maybe having some sort of dry bag if you wanted to avoid this rust. Alright, so this is the final bit of gear before I get onto the bike. So this is the Camelback Ultra 4. I've had this for about 10 years now, so it's really good. It's got a 2 litre bladder. Got a 2 litre bladder here. So I use this every day, filled it up before I headed out. That just slots in here. In addition to that, I took 2 water bottles, each of which were, I don't know, like 500 to 750 ml, so all in I had a capacity of 3 to 3.5 litres, which did me fine. When I was organised, I made sure that one of these bottles had an electrolyte tab in it to prevent me from getting dehydrated, because you do sweat an awful lot. I mentioned the UV before, but here's the lip balm. When it's windy and sunny, it really can just zap your lips, so just protect yourself. Deodorant, pump, writing equipment, AirPods. Some people do use these while cycling, but I would recommend that you don't. It's just not safe. But I took these. Compass, didn't use that. Sun cream. I used to keep this sun cream in this pocket here, just for easy access, just to make sure that I didn't get sunburnt. And then a helmet, of course. It's the law to ride with one of these in New Zealand. Consider getting one with MIPS technology, which is supposedly superior to traditional helmets. Okay, so finally here is the bike that I did the TA on. So first of all, just to go through this, here's the D-lock that I mentioned before. Just good, gave me peace of mind when staying away from the bike for a period of time. For example, when I went to Hobbiton, I dropped it off at the kind of reception and then was away for a couple of hours, so just whacked that between the down tube and the wheel, which was good. In terms of the bike itself, it's a Genesis Quad Affair. It's a steel frame. It was a kind of a custom build that I got from the local bike shop. So it's got a triple chain set at the front here. So it's a Shimano Sora 5039 30 tooth chain ring. I've also got 9-speed Shimano Sora cassette at the back. This is an 1134. In terms of gearing, I think I was slightly over-geared in the sense that I ran out of gears on the steeper, more rough sections of the climb. So I'd recommend, unless you think you're like pretty strong, I'd recommend getting more of a kind of mountain bikey style or gravel style gearing system, which gives you that ability to spin a bit more on the climbs. So yeah, got the rack here. This is where my Oatley panniers were attached to on either side. The tent sat on top and it was lashed together with this bungee cord. I had Schwalbe Marathon Plus Tour tyres, which I mentioned before. These are 38mm. Again, in hindsight, I think this is kind of a bit more of a cycle touring setup rather than a setup for gravel. So I think if you're wanting to do the TA, I'd recommend sort of 45mm tyres or more. Yeah, in terms of the wheels, I actually broke a couple of spokes. I think a total of 3 spokes actually on the back, and I think that was probably as a result of not having the optimal setup. I think if you had a hardtail with the front suspension, you'd probably be able to get away with not breaking as many spokes. A chap that I rode with for a while, he had a gravel bike and he broke a couple of spokes. So again, just try not to descend too aggressively on the rough sections, and if you want to have a really comfortable ride at the expense of speed on the roads, consider having a mountain bike. I also had these Mudguards on. These resulted in a bit of problems as the clearance is pretty limited. So it's fine on the sealed roads, but if there's mud, that could potentially clog the system. Fortunately, I was lucky with the weather, so probably would advise against taking front and rear mudguards. Although when you were cycling in a group, it stopped water from spraying up into the rider behind you, and it also kept my gear drier than it would have been otherwise. Brooks saddle, so I had the Brooks B17 saddle. I got this pre-owned, so this was already broken in, and I can honestly say it's the most comfortable saddle I've ever ridden on. I didn't feel like I had to get out of the saddle that much. I could stay seated on the climbs, although sometimes when it was super steep I had to get out, but it's difficult when you've got a very heavily laden bike, especially at the rear. I didn't want to put any undue force on the rack itself, because I have snapped a rack from doing that. The quad lock, so this was for my Garmin, that was for my phone. So if, for example, I had to navigate using my phone, I didn't have to put it in my pocket and keep getting it out over and over again. I could just whack it on here, lock it off, and then just navigate through Google. It was also helpful for Strava when I went off the TA route in the Central Plateau and other places. I also installed a bell on my handlebars. That was helpful when you were passing pedestrians and you wanted to get their attention in an easy way. I think the drop down handlebars were good. Just gives you more ways to rest your hands, as your hands can get quite sore during the time. Your neck can also get a bit sore as well. So just being able to go on the tops and the hoods and the drops is helpful. The frame itself is steel. I think steel is kind of good for this kind of thing, because you wouldn't want a frame to crack, say if it was made out of carbon fibre. This was my mistake actually, but I didn't put a dropout support when I put it in transit, so one of the dropouts actually compressed slightly, but because it was steel, the bike shop in Kirikiri could actually file it down by a couple of mil to allow the front wheel to fit in there, which saved me a bit of heartbreak. If I had a carbon fork and that had happened, it's kind of game over really. So I hope all of that is helpful. It's been an absolutely incredible experience. I think I'll do a separate video sort of talking about tips and my reflections in a bit more detail, but if you do have any comments or questions, please do post them down below. Okay, cheers guys, thanks, bye.